Gillum and Ms. Dentico. Welcome to the session. Make sure you are unmuted. Ms. Dentico.
Okay,
yes,
there
ma'am.
we go. We got
I
it.
just
There we
had
go.
to move one to get to the button. Well, welcome to our session. We just wanted to present ourselves.
Hi, I'm Amy Gillum, and I'm a read and recovery teacher at Larn Elementary School.
And I'm Salha Dentico. I'm one of the instructional interventionists at Crowders Creek Elementary. We're going to start with just the MTSS system, just talk a little bit about it. So as most of you are probably familiar with the MTSS process, a lot of our students that attended the summer camp came from this system. Most of them were from Tier 2 and Tier 3, and we basically looked at a number of pieces of data throughout the district, and we chose and invited students who were who fit a certain criteria that we're going to go into in just a little bit to attend the summer session.
And most of the children that we worked with were about a year to a year and a half behind with their reading and their writing skills. And so they qualified for our summer camp in the Clover School District.
Okay, so data. What data did we look at? Well, when analyzing existing data for student data, what we did was, this was even to just the criteria to get them, to invite them to the program. It was based on 2020-21 school year FMP results. And most of our students fell within the levels of K to L with reading fluency, accuracy, comprehension, and of course, there's always those reading struggles.
We use that data to group our students based on their fluency and their accuracy needs, as well as their comprehension needs. And so this is the data that we use to make our groups for our students between the 3 teachers that were there.
And we also wanted to share some of the data that we kind of, we had the beginning of the summer reading camp FMP data, and then after the 3-week summer camp, we wanted to share some of those levels as well, just to show the growth, the hard work that went into that from the students. They just, it was a wonderful experience. Mm-hmm. So that just shows the growth. Oh, and I wanted to point out the students that you see that are highlighted. Those were our students that were virtual in 3rd grade. And if you recall, they were actually virtual for half of 2nd grade also. So it's very interesting to see what their data also look like. So as we continue to show data, we wanted to point out that those that are highlighted were our virtual students.
Right. And the first time that they had been back in any kind of a school setting was with us in the summer program. So that was really also interesting to have them back in that setting and to see how they interacted with the other children. And it was a really good experience for them and for us as well.
Okay, so now that we talked about the existing data, how we got them to be invited into the program, we're going to go into the student progress monitoring data that we used during those 3 weeks of the summer reading camp. So we used EasyCBM, and with EasyCBM, if you are familiar with it, you know that it monitors comprehension, fluency, and those are the main, it monitors other things, vocabulary and so forth. But those were the main ones that we focused on, were the comprehension piece and the fluency piece. We also, just from looking at the data from the FMPs, we saw that there was a high need for phonics. So we did some words their way assessments just to see what areas within the phonics students were in need of, and then that data helped us group them as well. And then we also used some engagement inventory just to kind of monitor their reading and their writing behaviors. And just to let you guys know, we actually added the links to a lot of these resources that we used. So when you have the time to view this presentation that we'll be sharing, you can click on them and it'll take you to those links.
Yeah, there's links within pretty much within all of our slides that we have for you to see today. So if you kind of hover over it, you'll see that it kind of will open up. It'll give you that little icon that will share that it's a link, and whenever you click on that, it will take you into that area, so you can explore that on your own free time and, you know, see some ways that you may be able to incorporate that.
All right, so that brings us to our Easy CBM data, the pre and post. So again, just take a look at the ones who are highlighted. Those were our virtual students for half of second grade and the full third grade time. And what we're showing here is the beginning of the summer reading camp and the end of the summer reading camp, so that you can see the growth that a lot of the students had in just 3 weeks. And for some, the first time they were in a classroom setting.
Right.
We also included a chart just to for you guys to just see the norms, the percentiles, and so forth. So the one that we showed prior was the oral reading comprehension. This one right here is the comprehension. And that's just basically out of 20 questions, how many they got correct. All right. The next slide is analyzing student data. And this was not something that we did during the summer program. This was something, well, the iReady, let me start by that. The iReady is a district-wide progress monitoring tool.
Right.
And we have our students district-wide take it three times a week. Oh, it's 3 times a week.
Right. They take it in the fall, the
year.
winter, and then at the end of the school year.
Right, right. So what we did was we went to see what scores our students, our group of students, what their scores were at the end of their third grade year. And then we also went to look to see what their scores were at the beginning of their fourth grade year. So we wanted to just share their growth and their successes. So, and just keep in mind also that, you know, the columns on the left where it says end of 2020, 2021, those are based on the third grade expectations at the end of the year and the norms for third grade. Whereas the one for the beginning is the norms for fourth grade.
So there was some very good growth. We did notice some very good growth within our students when it came back to that iReady.
And what's really interesting, as Amy and I were looking through this, you know, you guys see student 1, student 2, but we have names and faces with those students, and it just overjoyed us to see some of the progress and growth that some of these students made, and knowing them as individuals and knowing how they started off just confidence wise, versus how they ended. So
Right. That blossoming with them in those 3 weeks was huge. A lot of our students were 2 years behind in certain domains of the iReady reading categories. And so that confidence when they came in, you could tell that they struggled and that it was hard for them. And, we really worked hard to build them up. And boy, they sure did. They did a really good job and enjoyed their time and gained a lot of confidence throughout that process of working with their peers and working with us.
all right, well, so now we're going to get right into the class schedule. So we're going to share kind of what we did, and again, we had such a good time. So we are so appreciative of this opportunity to share this with you guys. So our class schedule looked just like this. This was our daily routine. So we started off with breakfast. We always had a morning message just to kind of get the kids prepared for activities or events that were coming up.
For that day, right?
Exactly, yep. And then we had Lit Camp lesson, which we're going to go a little bit more into in just a minute. And that usually was a whole group lesson, kind of structured just like a regular classroom mini lesson, and then we have them go off and do and practice the strategies. Snack and bathroom breaks, and during that time we actually read the War with Grandpa, which was a really cute book. And they had a really good time with it.
They enjoyed that book a lot.
Oh yeah,
it was a really, really good book. So if you are not familiar with it, go check it out.
And shortly after that, we did literacy stations, which we will walk you through in just a minute. Recess and lunch. Then we got into our writing workshop, and then came the end of our day with closing campfire. Okay. So again, very data driven, right? So we're creating guided reading groups based on the information that their existing information that came with them, and the information that we were gathering throughout the first week, especially, and just, checking out different personalities, who to pair up with. So we analyzed the existing data, and we placed them in by weaknesses and strengths. And some of them, as you notice, group 1, those were our high readers, decoding wise, but their comprehension was not as strong. Group 2 had decoding struggles, and they needed to develop their fluency, which was obviously impacting their comprehension. And then group 3, those were our great thinkers. They just had such wonderful ideas, but they weren't performing at the level that their thinking was, in regards to fluency and comprehension when it came to assessments.
And those highlighted kids are the ones that have been virtual for over a year. We just kind of kept them highlighted throughout.
Okay, so in order to hit on all those areas of need, we saw that it was the type of strategies that needed to be taught were word study, vocabulary, and phonics. So along with our guided reading groups, we also incorporated a section for word study, vocabulary, and phonics, and we did it in rotating stations. So there was 3 of us. We were fortunate to have 3 of us, and we each took on one of those stations. And then we ended with our regular guided reading group. So we went ahead and we shared our rotations on this slide.
Right.
And basically whoever, like, for instance, I did a word study. So I started with group 2, and group 2 was my guided reading group.
So they came to us first for our station, and then as they rotated through to the other two teachers, they ended up back with their original teacher for their guided reading lesson.
Right.
So they went through all stations and then ended up back with their original teacher. And then we took them immediately went back into the guided reading group.
Right.
So those kids traveled throughout their stations for those 3 weeks. They stayed together at each rotation and each station.
And they follow this process every day. Okay, so now we're going to break down each one of those stations for you. So the phonics station, the tool that we used was Heggerty. And I don't know if any or some of you are familiar with it. So what we did was we added some instructional videos here for your viewing, just so that if it's something that you would want to implement yourself, we highly recommend it. It was very engaging. It kind of gets the kids going in regards to just thinking about the sounds that they hear, about the sounds that they're making themselves. And sometimes we even used whisper phones just to get them to kind of really hear it for themselves. And the other plus to this is there's that component where they're moving. So we also put a link in for posters for Heggerty, and it's just different movements that you can do. So for instance, as you can see in the bullets, if there was one that was about rhyming, maybe they do a thumbs up or a thumbs down if it didn't rhyme. But if you had a very active group, we would have them do jumping jacks, or stand up, sit down, jump in place, do push-ups, things like that. So it was just very engaging, and we didn't do it for every one of those components, but we did for the ones that allowed us to.
Right.
We're not going to view it. We're just going to, we'll go through it. The next station is the word study. And with the word study for those 3 weeks, we just used Words Their Way. We wanted to use something that gave us an assessment type component as well, which Words Their Way does. And it really allowed us to see the specific areas where they're struggling, not only decoding wise, but also encoding, their spelling and so forth. That oftentimes we know affects their writing because they're working so hard to recall how to spell something that they've forgotten their awesome ideas that they wanted to put on paper. So we did Words Their Way, and one of the things that we noticed was it was really, really cool to see how they were incorporating some of the Heggerty strategies into their sorting. So, the days where they were just sorting, not gluing, just that practice sorting, you could see them going, and it was just really cool to see that and them applying it. And of course, we would reinforce it and tell them how proud we are, and that's awesome. And you can use that strategy also, when you're writing and you get stuck on a word, or when you're reading and you get stuck on a word and things, and break it up into sounds.
It was really good to see them applying those strategies and to see their confidence, knowing that what they had just learned maybe that day or just a few days ago, and see them doing that correctly, they were beaming, and it just kept pushing them further along in the program and building up that confidence. It was good to see.
And that application piece, that where they took initiative and independence and just applying those skills, not only in the Heggerty time or word study time, but throughout other activities that we did.
And there's links to in this slide as well. So as you have time to go back
Mhm.
feel free to click around and, go and explore some of those links that we've added in this program for you.
Yes, please do. The next station is the vocabulary station. We used the tool that we used was Sadler's Connect Vocabulary Workshop. Um, One that we used in our intervention classes as well. Um, just wanted to quickly, again, we have a bunch of links here, but I just wanted to quickly click on one. So the purple one is second grade, the green one is third grade. So I'll just click on the purple one real quick. And it'll show you kind of what it looks like so that you get a view of it. So that's every unit. This happens to be unit 11, and every unit begins with some kind of passage. And the wonderful thing about it, honestly, is that it hits on nonfiction and there's also fictional.
Lots of genres, right?
So I do like that aspect of it. So there's many different, I'm sorry, the vocabulary words are highlighted as you can see. And then we go into the meaning of the vocabulary words. And what's really cool about this section is that it hits on parts of speech. So they start to see that, you know what, there are some words that could be a verb and a noun. And then we can start talking about what is a verb, what is a noun, how do we use this word as a verb, how do we use this word as a noun, and so forth. And then we open up, homonyms, and so it's just it's a great program because it opens up so many different teaching opportunities and learning opportunities. There's matching, completing sentences, context clues. And there's word games, synonyms, antonyms, and so forth. So please take the time to just view through here. There's also some review just to kind of assess their progress in this particular unit. Along with that is this section here. Just wanted to show you there is a virtual component, and now this part is actually free. So when you go here, and you can go to any unit, but for instance, we're going to go to unit 11, which was the one that we were just in. You can go into the words here and see this little speaker right here. It'll read the whole story to the student.
Margaret Heffernan Borland, Trailblazer. Biography.
So the student can follow along, whether you print it out for them or they have it on in their book or on their iPad, computer, whatever, and they can read along. So it has this component. There's also these, which we absolutely loved. It has a visual component to it. It gives you an example of a sentence. And along with that, it gives you, again, parts of speech. Okay, so this is a beam as a noun, and this is a beam as a verb. And they have that visual piece.
Putting those picture clues helps a lot.
Absolutely. And then please explore it. There's games that go along with it as well. So at your own time, please do explore that as well. All right, so getting back to the presentation, I just wanted to show you real quick the vocabulary. And again, there's also a video there to kind of give you a little bit more information about it. All right, so those were our stations. So we hit on phonics, the word study,
and vocabulary.
And now we're getting into our guided reading resources. We are incredibly fortunate because, because we have had the opportunity to have these kits, some of these kits. And that's and we've been using the kits that and there's links to these as well for you. There it's a guided reading program. It's through Scholastic, and we wanted to kind of I mean, these are uh, the books that we used for our guided reading, and they also had, if you notice, I tried to put pictures, yeah, to kind of give you a visual of what they look like. But these right here break down maybe the strategy that you want to focus on for that particular book, and almost like a little lesson plan for it. So that's what we used in our guided reading, and that's those rotations that we showed you.
And again, as we were in our guided reading groups, we were really, really thinking about the word studies and the vocabulary and phonics and all that, and tried to incorporate everything that they had just done into our mini lessons and into our guided reading sessions with the kids.
And that's one thing, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we really tried to communicate with each other as to, hey, what did you do, or what were you covering today, so that we could incorporate it into our guiding reading groups, and also our stations.
Right.
You know, you guys just, you know, worked on this word with Ms. Gillum. Let's break it down. Let's apply some of these. So just that was really powerful. Just the opportunity that we had to just communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm. Full circle. For sure.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this was really a lot of fun. Our first day, we kind of started with an icebreaker. We had a lot of students who were from all different schools. All three of us teachers were actually from different schools as well. We had not worked together prior, or even met each other until
That's true.
until we started working
for this.
Yeah. So we wanted to come up with a great icebreaker, and Ms. Gillum actually came up with this one, which was fantastic. So I'll let her explain it.
So what we did is we had all the children sit on the floor, and they just made a circle around, you know, a circle. And the teachers were all down there with everybody. And we had a ball of yarn, and the yarn is just wrapped tightly. And so the idea is that you hold the yarn and you roll the ball to somebody across from you. And when that person gets it, they introduce themselves to everybody, and they share something about themselves. It can be something that they enjoy doing, a sport, something that they did over the summer, something they're looking forward to doing, just anything that can help our friends get to know each other. And so as they do that, they hold on to the yarn, and then they toss it to the next person. And as you can see up on the screen, it ends up making like a web. And so then that conversation turns into how we are all connected together, and how we work together, and that we are a team, and that we support each other with our words, with our actions. And then as we talk a lot about how that web looks, and how it's tight, and how we're all connected. And then I would have Miss Dentico let go of her piece. And when she decides that she does not want to be a team player, or she doesn't want to give her part that day, the web starts to fall. And then I had another student let go of their piece. And so the idea was that it was a visual for them to see that what happens as the group decides to not work together, that we are not a team anymore, and we start to have our group fall apart. And so it was just a really good visual for them to realize that we're all together, and that we want to be together and support each other. It's a fun activity.
It was really powerful.
It's a great activity.
And so visual, so hands-on. And a lot of the kids were like, oh my God, they were totally getting the connection that we needed them to. So I was glad that we did that. That's why we added it there. It was pretty cool.
It was neat.
All right. Moving on. All right, moving to the instruction piece. And the instruction piece is that the whole group one. And with a tool that we use there, again, we are so fortunate. We have the Lit Camp, one of the Lit Camp kits. I believe we have the 3rd grade one, which is the green one that's there. And it's a fantastic teaching tool. It incorporates the 7 strengths, as you can see. So it hits on some behavior and just being kind to each other and really forming a family. And it links so well to just that icebreaker, how we started with it and then moved right into this. And again, there are links here and videos for your viewing at whatever opportunity you get. Okay. And we talked about those 7 strengths that we were talking about for character. And one of the books that we incorporated during our summer camp is How Full Is Your Bucket? And we actually had an anchor chart and of opportunities where students would post, and us as well, would post moments or certain situations that maybe filled their buckets, or people that filled their buckets.
Yeah. Idea behind it, supporting the positive and building each other up. And, instead of saying something that could be unkind, being kind to somebody else. And a lot of what the kids posted were like little random acts of kindness. One of the students would come over and help somebody else if they were having a hard time maybe finding the page or understanding what we were doing. And so a lot of it was that. Some of it also turned out to be things that would happen when they were out at lunch and at recess, when they were together in social situations where they were playing and they were interacting. And so it was nice to see that this kind of was throughout the whole entire day, and building that positive and that nice, kind language with each other just went a long way with these kids.
All right, so let's get right into our reading workshop.
My favorite.
Oh, that's so much fun. It just brings us back so many memories. So the next few slides, we're just kind of gonna float through real quick, or as throughout, and it just basically highlights each book that we focused on during our 3 weeks. So one of the first ones, and again, this is from Lit Camp, that tool. So one of the first ones was Looking Like Me, and we focused on the strategy for poetry. And that's the thing. These books, guys, I'm telling you, they were fantastic.
Fantastic.
They really, really are great. Again, tons of genre, and you can incorporate so many reading strategies through them.
Absolutely.
I mean, more than one.
These were the ones that we chose.
Yes, exactly. For this particular one, we chose poetry. And again, there are links there for you guys to check out. But the activity that we did for this one is, and it kind of took 2 days, because this particular activity went with 2 books. One that focused on poetry, and the other one was inferring, which is actually our next slide. But the activity is called Silent Graffiti. I'm sure you guys have heard of that before. Very powerful, and it worked beautifully. Oops, and there it is again. Everything has a link. That's the problem. All right, so this was the next slide that I was referring to. So my name is Yoon. Our focus was inferring, but if you notice, the one from before was poetry. So we talked about figurative language. And then throughout the time, we pointed out, ooh, did you see figurative language in this book? In other books. And then, so each one of these strategies that we incorporated or introduced to them, we had anchor charts for, so that we can quickly refer back to with a different book that we read in the future.
And after we read the book to the students, every student got their own copy. And then it was their turn to go, and they could work with a buddy if they wanted to. We were lucky enough to have our group in a library, so we had a lot of room. There was a lot of space for them to spread out, fun chairs for them to sit in. So they would go and they would do their reading on their own or with a buddy. And then the activity that we did, also pairing up with buddies too. But they all had these books that they could keep throughout the day. We usually let them keep them a couple days so they could refer back to them and they could read them during their independent time.
Okay, and then the activity here, we just basically had them infer a poem, and almost like a riddle, actually. And it just gave them just a description of something, and then it ended with, "What am I?" So we put them on anchor charts, and they did, the approach, the graffiti approach, right? But it was silent, so they weren't allowed to talk to each other or anything.
That was hard.
But they got through it.
They did.
But it was really, really cool to not only see the product, see the posters themselves, but also just the discussion we had after,
Right.
where we were able to share our thoughts.
Right.
They were very impressive.
The silent graffiti is something that you must try. It's great to watch them as they go through and they read the clues, and then you can see them thinking, and then they go back and they read again, and their eyes start to get bigger and bigger as they really think that, oh, I got this, and that excitement, whether they were right or not, the excitement with it was just great, and also having them look at what their friends have done, it was really, really good. I would highly recommend the silent graffiti.
Yeah, if you haven't done so, definitely do it.
For sure.
Okay, so moving on to the next one, we just hit on theme. Again, a lot of the resources we used are just, online, or resources that we have used in the past in our own groups throughout the year. But this particular one was about theme and main idea. We always incorporated some kind of video to kind of help with just build that background knowledge and kind of hook them into the lesson. So it was really cool to see how, the Owen and Mazee actually was really cute, how their personalities, their friendship grew. And we talked about friendship as the theme. And it just opened up so many discussions about look at their differences and how they still were able to get along and, and really become great friends. Same thing for you, Are a Kenyan Child. Great books, highly recommended.
Books. And anchor charts were kept throughout as we did these. Every time we did our reading lesson, our mini lesson, we would do the anchor chart. And then as they would do their shared reading and we would come back, there were things added to the anchor charts. And then the anchor charts were put up in the classroom so that they could always go back and refer. Because these are things that we talked about throughout. It wasn't like we talked about theme one time. It came up again in a few days, and text features would come up. And so it was a good way for them to use those anchor charts that we had built together for them to refer to. So the teaching and that lessons just continued on and on.
Absolutely. And actually, one of the things that we did, again, our district is very fortunate. Our students have their own iPads, and they were able to have their iPads during the summer. And one of the things that we did was we had them take pictures of the anchor charts and almost have kind of like their own collection of these resources that they could go to, and they saved them onto Notability, and and named the folder anchor charts and so forth, so that when they would go even into our station groups, we'd be like, well, in our guided reading groups, well, what do you guys think the theme is? Wait a minute, what's theme again? And then you could see that some of them were pulling it up in their iPads, even though the anchor chart was in the other room.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we incorporated as well. That was very helpful.
Very helpful. And then they had that with them in school because it's on their iPad. And so as they talk about these things in fourth grade with their teachers, they can refer to this for more information.
Oh, and I didn't talk about the previous one that I just clicked out of. We did nonfiction, and we talked about genre. How, you know, there are some nonfiction that looks like it could be fictional, and vice versa. So we had that type of discussion and discovery. We looked at a number of books. Again, moving on here to character traits, we used On a Beam of Light. Powerful book, a lot of figurative language in this one, so we were able to incorporate a lot of previous teachings into this one. And then we also linked it to the next book that we did, which focused on Jackie Robinson, and we talked about compare and contrast, and their character traits. So we tried to integrate a lot of these strategies throughout all these books. So it's a great tool to use. Making connections, we used Dr. DeSato, and it was very interesting just to see, like, you know, we talked about genre here. Why is it genre? Oh, you know, and just, again, incorporating a lot of the strategies that we had already covered.
Mm-hmm.
Mice and Beans was a cute one.
For summarizing.
Mm-hmm. And again, you guys can use any one of the other reading strategies, but these are the ones that we chose. This one, I think, by far was our favorite.
Big red lollipop.
One of the things is, and we did include the link.
Good.
For the author. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. So engaging. The kids absolutely loved it.
They loved it.
They could totally relate to it and so forth. And please check out the videos that we linked on there, because they're great.
Right. And they related to both characters in this story for different reasons, you know, and they could also relate with, like, oh, well, that's like my little sister or my little brother. The link, though, that is included in this, highly recommend that you check that out. And we won't tell you what it is. We'll let you be surprised for yourself. But if you do not have this book, this is another bonus.
You want to add this to your collection if you don't have it.
I got it the next day.
Okay, so we did a couple of days with this book. We did Point of View, and we did Compare and Contrast. And it was fantastic. The outcome of it, the result of it. So highly recommended. Moving on, we talked about genre again. Here's fiction, cause and effect, tone and mood. That one was a little bit hard sometimes, because a lot of the kids, you know, they think about feelings and so forth, and it, you know, what is the author trying to get us to feel, and just that talk of how the author can persuade us and almost trick us into feeling something or wanting us to feed something. And how the illustrator also plays a part into this. So it opens up a whole bunch of different opportunities for discussion. Moving on to our writing workshop. And that was kind of like towards the end of the day.
Right. After lunch.
And we started with a heart map. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, but it was just a great opportunity to not only see what ideas the kids were coming up with, or their writing style and so forth, but it also gave us an opportunity to get to know them, because we did the same thing. So we kind of shared some of our interests. So it was nice to do that in the beginning. And again, we did the engagement inventory, just to see some of their writing behaviors.
Right. Where we were to start with writing, how they started out, and the areas that we needed to focus on.
Right. We took a closer look at the list. We had a checkoff list, kind of just to assess their writing needs. And that one is right here. We have added the link to it as well. Each student had a word list in their notebooks so that they wouldn't have to worry about, oh, how do I spell this word again?
Mhm.
They can go back to it and if there was a word that wasn't there, we could work together to get it, to spell it and just write it so that they would have it next time.
Add it on their list, right?
All right, so that concludes our the
Instruction
instruction
part.
portion. And as you know, it's hard for students, especially after the year we had, to keep them engaged during summertime.
And this was a full day,
Yes.
regular school day, Monday through Friday.
That's
So it
right.
was, the hours were exactly the same as they were in school. So It
Right.
was a long day.
Yes, it was. So, oops. So, we wanted to share some of the things that we did to engage them. So we had
Creative.
so we had Fun Friday, and these are some of the things we had: mad takes, relay races, book tasting.
Mhm.
We had some games, the scribble game, Look It. And you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with a lot of these. We just wanted to share what we did. So the Scribbles Inc., there's some links to that as well. And they basically created their own picture
Mhm.
and they wrote about it.
Which was fantastic.
Yes, they did such an
They did a
awesome job.
really good job with that, and they really enjoyed that. I thought maybe they may not because they were a little bit older, but they really got into it and became very, very creative with their scribble that we gave them, then creating it into a picture and then writing about what
Right.
their picture was and
Mhm.
putting that into a story.
We also allowed them to just have game time. Puzzles were fantastic. Blocks. We had a coloring station,
Mhm.
and we incorporated that within our stations. So and that was just only on Fridays, but it just built their
The
it kept-
social skills
yes,
too, right?
and yes,
Mhm.
absolutely,
Their
and it kept
social
them
skills.
engaged
Right.
throughout. So that's
Something
another.
to look forward to.
Yeah. We had a book tasting, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. So these are some fun pictures of them with their books. We had mad takes. It's kind of this one was really a lot of fun. We did add the link to it, and the video there. I will not play it right now, but you are welcome to. They made it quite funny for themselves.
They did. But that also was another way that we were able to take in everything that we had done at our stations with nouns and verbs and
Yes.
adjectives and all of that and tie it into something fun for them. And watch that video. It's funny.
We won't watch it right now. I'm trying to click. And then Look It. Again, it's just very engaging. I'm sure most of you know it, if not all. And we incorporated the books that we had been reading throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
We had Challenge Island come and visit, and that was kind of like our trip.
Mm-hmm. That was like our field trip. And they came to us.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids were divided up into stations, and the presenter would walk them through, and their challenge was to create a slingshot like Captain Underpants.
Yes.
It was the slingshot Captain Underpants. And so by going through all of her clues and listening to her and everything, they created their own slingshot. And so they got to enjoy putting Captain Underpants into the trash, if you will.
Which was
fun.
actually a toilet.
It was the toilet.
But they had a ball, and you were able to see a lot of their strengths that we don't normally, or they don't normally have the opportunity to share with us. All right. And then the last one here is our relay races. Oh my gosh, they had so much fun with this. I don't know if we have time to show it. What do you
I
think?
think we do.
Okay. This is just a 30-second video just to give you.
And so what
An
they
idea.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead and explain it first.
So what they did is we would bring in some of our bigger clothes, and the kids were separated into groups, and they had to put on an outfit, and then they had to run up front and up in the front of the classroom. With this particular one that we're showing you, they had to connect a phrase with the caption. So they were matching, they had to read the caption, and then they had to match it to the picture. And so there were two different spots, and they were running all over the place trying to match it. And then they would run back to their team. So what you see is them going through this.
So needless to say, they had a really good
A
time
lot
with that.
of fun doing that. And then we had to change up the outfits too. So one day I brought in dresses, and
Oh, that
the
was
boys had to put on
hilarious.
dresses, and that was fun too.
All right. That concludes our presentation. We wanted to thank you for this opportunity to share our fun summer with these fantastic group
kids.
of kids.
Mhm.
Just looking at their faces again makes
Yeah.
me smile.
Great group of kids.
Yes, they are. That's it.
We hope that you enjoyed it and that you can walk away with some of these ideas and apply them this year in your teaching. And, if you do anything over the summer, apply that there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for sharing with us. Very creative.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or anything? I think we got a couple minutes before the next one. If anybody has any questions.
Yes, I have a quick question. How many students did you serve through your camp?
We were supposed to have 13.
Right, and we ended up with 10.
Yeah. And attendance for 2 of those 10 was on and off.
Right, so 10 to 11, depending. One of the students kind of came, and he wasn't consistent throughout the whole entire program.
Thank you.
Will the link to your presentation be shared via email, or how would we receive it? How do we have access to it?
It will be, they've recorded it, so
Okay.
they're going to have it up on their site. So
Okay,
you can go
excellent.
back to it and click into this presentation, and then from there you should be able to go through the slideshow and click on the links.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Excellent.
You are welcome.
And please don't hesitate to contact us. One of the slides has our email. So if there's a resource that you wanted a little bit more information about, please don't hesitate to contact.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
During the lesson, all 3 teachers were in one room. How did you rotate it? Like the instruction was rotated during the rotation group?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? We heard the rotation. Can you repeat that one more time?
I was just wondering if all 3 teachers were in the same room.
How many?
She asked if all 3 teachers were in the same room.
Gotcha.
Okay, for the stations, we had,
For the whole,
I'm sorry?
I was just wondering for the entire day. Yes.
For the entire day.
Yes, we were all together. We were. And when we did our stations, one teacher was like in the corner of the room, and then two other teachers kind of split up into the little offices in the workroom that were in the library. But yes, we were together all day, all three of us, the three teachers along with the children.
Thank you.
You're welcome.